It's when birthdays and Christmases lose their special touch. The weight of the world in my brain feels quite too much, quite too much. Hope and joy can make a face, but you can lose it in the haze. Hope and joy can make a face. Oh, am I losing it in the haze? But I'm not getting old. I'm not getting old. I'm not getting old. I'm just getting older. I'm not getting old. I'm not getting old. No, no, I'm not getting old. I'm just getting older. You still got time. I've still got time. This world can still be mine. Oh, mine, 'cause I'm not getting old. Not getting old. Not getting old. I'm just getting older. I'm not getting old. I'm not getting old. No, no, I'm not getting old. I'm just getting older. Older, 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 older.
Hello and welcome to Talk Like That. In the studio today is a local singer-songwriter who's released her first single last year called Older and has just released her second single, and we're here to hear more about it today and many more tunes and music that's on its way. We're with the lovely Sarah McCreedy. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you very much for having me, Debbie. It's lovely to be here.
Thanks for being here. Tell me about your early singing days. When did you first start singing?
I mean, it's hard to pinpoint a particular moment, I suppose, but I was always singing from a very young age. I'm from quite a musical family. My dad was in a band when he was younger, and he tried to get my brother into the guitar when we were growing up, and I was sort of sneakily in the background starting to strum and play and things. So I started playing the guitar when I was about 10. Singing was from earlier than that, kind of karaoke on holiday, things like that, and just a love of getting up and performing. Even if I was nervous about that, just actually being up in the spotlight is something I've always really relished. So yeah, it's been quite a natural, organic development of music for me.
And when did you become aware of your singing voice?
I suppose I did talent shows in school and things like that, and I had a lot of friends who were very supportive, and the very first song I ever wrote, my friends really rallied behind it and got me to play it in class for teachers and things. So I always had a nice support group around me. I wouldn't have been maybe as aware myself as other people would say, oh, this is something you should pursue. And then I started a YouTube channel when I was about 15. And that was quite popular, and I got a lot of nice comments and things like that. I won't tell you the name of it because it's super embarrassing, but
Oh, go on.
but it's so that was another kind of outlet that I had, and an outlet that was I got messages from the wider world and made friends from, Canada and America and different places who were really sort of spurring me on and saying, you should really think about pursuing music. So I've always had nice voices around me telling me that I'm good enough, even though you're always most critical of yourself.
And that encouraged you then to continue playing, and also because of the love of it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't actually start playing out kind of live until later. I suppose when I first started gigging regularly would have been 2013, and I started to do open mics and things like that, and I remember being so nervous for open mics, and it seems quite crazy to me now. But the first proper gig I did was the Dalriada Festival, so it was really a case of being thrown in at the deep end. There was maybe a few thousand people there, so it was really insane to be doing that and just on stage on my own, kind of as a warm-up act. But I think that was a really good thing to do, to really conquer my fears. And I think now, performing very regularly, I'm quite well accustomed to that.
And how do you find playing live at the moment, in various different venues?
Yeah, I really enjoy playing live. I think playing live is probably one of the most enjoyable things for me. When you get in a studio, it's great to see your songs come to life, but there's a lot of kind of, takes and retakes. And what I like about playing live is how organic that is, and that you get a lot of emotion. And even when I'm in the studio, I like to do takes all together, kind of in one live take, because I think you get more emotion that way, and I sort of really connect with my songs then about what the actual meaning of them is for me. So that's something I get really passionate about when I'm playing live, and I can get kind of lost in that, and I kind of forget even who's around me.
I've seen you play and you are very expressive, I would agree. What about the actual songwriting process for you? How do you find that and how do you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of something that changes, I think. I don't think there's one way particularly that I do that, but I would say that it's always sort of there's a seed of an idea. So it might be something that's just sort of swimming around in my mind for a few days, a particular topic I'm thinking about, whether that's something personal or something more social or political. And then, really it can come within a half-hour period or like a 2-week period where I keep going back to something. But usually it does come quite quickly. I will just, sit down, and it might be a little melody that I start playing, or a certain lyric I have in my head, and I just kind of take things from there, and it does happen just quite naturally. So yeah, I suppose it's always something I find difficult to define when people ask me what is the songwriting process, because it's never the same with the songs. But I'm certainly not the kind of songwriter who could, if you told me to write a song about a particular thing, I wouldn't be able to go and do that. I do find it to be quite I suppose, authentic process, in that it's not something I can sit down and say, right, I'm going to write a song about this today. It's more, it works in the reverse, I suppose.
Your song Older was released last year. Tell me what it's about to you.
Yeah, so Older, I wrote Older when I was 23, so I'm now 25. And some people might find it ridiculous that I'm writing songs about getting old when I'm in my mid-20s. But it wasn't so much about that as sort of that, I suppose, stage between your real youth of being kind of a teenager and feeling the sort of the naive optimism of that, and then going to your responsibilities of, having to pay rent and having commitments, and starting to feel like my own sort of musical aspirations were maybe harder to achieve, and being more cynical about things, which I don't think is a bad thing, to be kind of more realistic and aware of things. So it was really a process for me that became very positive in the end, even if the song is quite melancholic in working through that. It became very positive for me to work through my emotions, and that's something that I think my songs can do for myself, has become quite therapeutic in working through my own emotions. And then hopefully, obviously, the dream is that somebody listens to that and can resonate with it as well. And, obviously you can take away whatever you want from that too, which I think is what's great about art in general, music and literature and everything.
There's a cute picture in the front of a young baby, a young toddler.
Yeah.
Who's that, Sarah?
That is me, yeah. That's me at my grandparents' house when I'm about 2, I think.
On the front cover, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, I think it's been a sort of a trend in recent releases. I'm a big fan of the band Big Thief. They had an album called Capacity, and on their front cover, the lead singer is being held as a baby by her uncle, but her uncle looks very like her, so it's a very sort of poignant photo. So I'd noticed that people were kind of doing this, you know, this very sort of nostalgic turn in how music was being presented. So, and that obviously really fit what the song is about. There is that kind of nostalgia to it, even in terms of the march of time and the rhythm of the song. So yeah, I just thought it worked really well, and it was obviously easy to produce.
Yes, and how did you go about producing it?
So I worked with SRH Sound in Belfast, and it was quite a, I suppose, lo-fi production. We did it in a home studio with some guitars and a lot of kind of ethereal vocals. So yeah, it was pretty low key, but I felt that really suited the song. Going forward, I'm working on kind of bigger productions in bigger studios, so that's really nice. The latest single, City of Broken Dreams, has just been recorded in Start Together studio in Belfast, just attached to the OES Centre. So that was really a new chapter for me, to record in that size of studio with that much equipment and that much space, and again with SRH Sound, but actually going into the studio together with a full band, a lot more musicians, and yeah, so that was really exciting.
You have, as you said, more musicians involved. Tell me about those musicians that were involved in the process.
Yeah, so I had the good fortune of having Ashley Hamilton come in for drums, and he works with the band Mosmo Strange and is also part of Zool Records, the artist collective. He's done some work with Jealous of the Birds as well. So it was really, really lovely to have him in as quite a seasoned musician within the kind of Belfast scene, and he was very enthusiastic about the process from the start. So it was really nice working with him, and he actually had the flu on the day of recording, but he battled through, and I think when you hear it, you'll agree that he did a very good job. So we had him in, and then SRH Sound is fronted by Simon Hart, and he did the bass for the track. I did the acoustic tracks then, and actually my dad came in for electric guitar. So that was very nice to have him on the record, and he was very excited to be involved in it. Yeah.
Yeah. What's it like working with your dad?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I think there's always going to be a bit more openness when it's your family member. So we will be quite honest with each other, but I think that's a very, very good thing. He's obviously very passionate about music. I obviously take that from him. So yeah, it's really nice to have him involved in the process.
And City of Broken Dreams, the lyrics, how did they come about? How did you go about writing that song?
I actually wrote that song a number of years ago now. It was actually, I think, 2015 that I wrote it. So it's been something that I keep coming back to, and you know, when I play it live, people would say to me, oh, you know, there's a really kind of catchy chorus there, and people would sing it and remember it. So in terms of how I went about writing it, I wrote it when I was still an undergraduate in my degree in English literature at Queen's, and I was doing a course in kind of post-war American literature, and we did a collection of short stories, and one of them was called O City of Broken Dreams by John Cheever, sort of about a family going to New York and the disappointments of the American dream. And so that was something, I got the inspiration from that and kind of remapped it onto my own experience of early kind of musical disappointments and my own sort of fear about going forward and fear of failure, and you know, the usual kind of depressing topics that I like to address.
And you are bringing out an album, all being well?
Yes. I certainly have enough tracks for an album now, so either an EP or an album. We're sort of seeing where we're going forward, and I'd like to do that this summer, all being well. So I'm really excited to get City of Broken Dreams, you know, out there and see the reception to that and move forward from there.
And playing gigs then, tell me about what gigs you've been playing. You played a variety of different venues, so you have.
Yeah, well, as I said, you know, Dalriada Festival, I've done that for a few years. I've played in the Empire, which is always a pleasure. And I'm sort of based between Belfast and Cork, so I play gigs kind of all around north and south. I suppose the most recent gig I played was in a place called the Friary in Cork, which is a very kind of cultural pub. They have poetry readings and culture nights, and they have this particular night called No Covers, Just Original Lines. So it's really nice as a songwriter to go into a venue and not be asked to play covers, be asked to play, don't play any covers, just play your own music. It's really nice to see people really engaged in what you're doing.
And you find it very supportive and encouraging, like you enjoy it whenever you're getting a connection from the audience?
Yeah, completely. You know, I do like to sort of engage with the audience, and sometimes I would look up when I'm playing and I'll see someone's transported, and that's really the best feeling, to feel like you have a wider impact with your music, whether that be in the live setting or just somebody listening to a track at home and feeling that they can resonate with it in some way. If you can do that for one person, you know, that's kind of good enough for me, really, to be able to have that impact.
And what brought you to Cork?
So I'm actually doing my PhD in American literature in Cork. So obviously after studying the undergraduate, I went on to do a master's and continued on from there. I got the chance to have a scholarship down in University College Cork. So, but you know, I think it's really nice for me because, you know, as I've kind of said with City of Broken Dreams, there's a connection there, and a lot of the times, you know, I feel like they're connected strands, what I'm doing, because, you know, with my research, I'm writing and I'm being creative, and likewise with my songs. So even in terms of the process, you know, it's funny that I can be awake at night and I can get an idea for one of my chapters, or I can get an idea for a song. So it's funny that the creative processes are, you know, they're not the same, but they're certainly on tangents of the same kind of creative process.
Yeah, there's a link there between the two.
Yeah.
And do you find because you're studying right now, is that actually helping your songwriting process in a lot of ways?
Yeah, I think because, you know, I'm studying in the humanities where, you know, we're really promoting critical thinking and thinking outside the box, and, you know, I teach undergrad students as well, so I'm constantly encouraging that. It really is quite a nice place to be creative and feel supported in being creative. So that certainly helps me, and, you know, kind of undertaking a PhD can be quite an isolating process, so I'm lucky to have a good support network around me, but I also think having the songwriting, again, back to that kind of therapeutic notion, that it is, you know, a lot of people will journal or they'll go for a run or whatever it is, because it can have a bit of an impact on your mental health. And I think having that outlet for me in that more selfish way is nice, that it's something I do at the end of the day. I sit down and I play my guitar and, you know, get to reflect on what I've been doing, and it is a good outlet for me, yeah.
And how did you find Cork? How do you find playing in Cork compared to Northern Ireland?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's actually quite a buzz around Northern Ireland at the minute, musically. Cork is more difficult for me to get out playing as much because I'm usually working, so I'm kind of juggling things and trying to keep things going. But I do find Belfast and probably Ireland generally, I think it's fair to say, having a bit of a rise in music right now, with things like Other Voices has been really prominent in the past few years, and it's great to see so many artists getting involved in these things, and in small towns even. You know, they have one in Ballina there. So yeah, I think there's a good buzz about the place, and it's nice to kind of be connected to two cities, I guess. And, I've done some work in Dublin as well, so it's nice to feel like I have connections in different places and be able to use those.
And is each audience different in each location?
Well, I suppose when I'm at home, I get a lot more friends and family coming, but I do find Cork and Belfast to be quite similar in some ways, in terms of the people, that they're very friendly and very familiar to me, and just always would be very complimentary and nice about my work. So yeah, I feel quite lucky to have that. I haven't had anyone say anything bad anyway, so that's nice.
And for your songwriting now, do you have a theme? Is there sort of reoccurring themes in your music now, in your writing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a lot to do with what I read, and I have a song called Violets from Plug Street Wood, that I wrote after reading Vera Britton's memoir.
Unusual title.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the poems that her fiance Roland Leighton wrote to her during the war. So it was just something that really resonated with me, and I found very emotionally impactful. So that is somewhere that I always take inspiration from. I have another song called Carry On, which I wrote, I suppose, as I felt I had a sort of developing political sense of the world and was becoming less desensitized to sort of wider issues. And that was something I just wrote about, how messed up the world is in a way, and how we need to find a way to be compassionate and be supportive of one another and find hope. So yeah, I suppose there's a lot of personal issues, but there's a lot of more universal ones too. So I wouldn't really pinpoint one particular thing. I think, certainly relationships and just a sense of self as well, I guess.
Talking about your second single, how do you go about marketing yourself, and how important is it for a musician to market themselves?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult when you are out on your own and you don't have an agent or anything like that. It is a lot, as with any career, is about who you know, and developing those connections and contacts. And that's something I'm quite lucky to have a few of those, and really have people helping me to promote things. But I think in another way, it's easier for artists too. I suppose it's a difficult balance, because there's so many people now working on their own when maybe there wasn't before, that you get this sort of minefield of just music, and you couldn't kind of self-distribute via Spotify and iTunes, and which is a very good thing, and it's a very good platform, but there are a lot of people doing it. So it's how do you get yourself noticed? How do you stand out from the crowd? And I think a lot of it is to do with luck as well, if you just meet the right person, or, the right person hears your song. But it is amazing to get stats in from Spotify and see that, I have listeners in Peru and Japan, and, that's something that we wouldn't have had maybe before kind of the age of social media and the digital age, to see those kind of connections.
So where can we see and hear your music, Sarah?
Well, I'm on Spotify. Older is on Spotify. City of Broken Dreams is on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, Apple Music. I suppose all the sort of places you would go to find music. And then I have a Facebook page and Instagram page where people can obviously contact me about gigs and things like that. So yeah, it's all out there. So I would really appreciate people checking in.
Well, lovely of you to come in today and talk to us. Thank you so much for the interview, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me, Debbie. Thank you.